Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God.
Read our district mission statement, grounded by our history as one of the oldest publicly supported schools in Wisconsin. Mineral Point School District is the heart of a small community that educates and inspires our students for a bright future in a big world. Okay. Call meeting to order. Take roll call.
Here.
Here.
God.
Here.
Here. Here.
Here. Okay, we'll go into recognitions. Mr. Wainwright.
As you could probably guess, there's a lot of people in attendance tonight because we have a lot of people to recognize for their accomplishments. First up, Robert Albright, who was, if you remember, our first perfect ACT score in school history, was nominated for the prestigious Presidential Scholar Candidate through the U.S. Department of Education. This program was established in '64 by the executive order to recognize and honor some of the nation's most distinguished graduating high school seniors. This is one of the highest honors for high school students, while not getting the award at the end, because it is then state of Wisconsin nominates individuals, and it's a very, 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 very select group of people that are recognized. Just being in this first category is an outstanding accomplishment. So congratulations to Robert Albright. Next, the elementary renovation project wins an award. I do see Mr. Tim Rupert from HSR online. Tim, would you like to say a few words on this project?
Yeah, I think we're just proud to have partnered with the school district and the overall community on this great project, and just happy to be a part of it. And it's still a showpiece in our office. So
this was done in combination with Kramer Brothers Builders. They were the builders of the elementary project. HSR were the architects behind it. And again, an award-winning project, and recognized. The trophy actually sits in the district office at this point in time. Beautiful glass trophy for this project. So congratulations to HSR and Kramer Brothers on receiving this award for that elementary school project. Next up, I do believe I see Mrs. Martin online. We have a national qualifier in our Future Business Leaders of America. You do have some students here. Mrs. Martin, would you like to speak to this recognition?
Sure. Hi. Thanks for having us. Yeah, I know that there's a few students there. For my first year at Mineral Point, I couldn't be more proud of the kids and their leadership and their drive to be the best that they can be. We have 6 students that will be moving on to Orlando for FBLA Nationals. So we're very excited. We're in the middle of planning for that. But I think the kids are really excited. We said at the beginning of the year, you make it, we'll find a way to get you there. So we have Kalea Biddick and Ella James for their community service project. Kalea is also doing an individual event in business communications. Juliana Kuhl for journalism. Matthew Ganinin, Eli Lindsay, and Madison Heim also made it for their news broadcast. And I think, is that everyone? I'm drawing a blank right now. I think that's everyone that is going. So very excited. I don't know if the kids want to say anything that are there, but.
Any FBLA members in the audience wish to take time to speak on this?
I can talk. So we are very excited to go. So there were 3 of us that qualified for nationals last year, but we weren't able to go. And we set out at the beginning of this year, we wanted to make it back, and we actually want to go this time. So right now we're trying to figure out the financials of that planning. So we are going to go to Orlando. That's at the end of June, the beginning of July. And it's just been really exciting. It's been interesting, obviously, having Mrs. Martin as a new advisor this year, but everything's worked out super well and we've had a lot of success. I think this is the most membership we've ever had in the program in about 32 years since it was created here at Mineral Point back in the 90s. So it's just great to see the success of all the FBLA members.
So congratulations to everyone that competed at the state and especially those going on to nationals. Congratulations. FFA, we have some state champions and some national qualifiers. The Wisconsin FFA State Meets Evaluation Champions team also qualified for the national FFA competition to be held in October in Indianapolis. Individually, Luke Schubert placed 3rd, Cameron Peterson 4th, Michael Edgington 8th, and Aiden Patterson 9th. This group will be competing at the National Convention in Indianapolis in October. So once again, another illustrious program here in Mineral Point. The FFA program has had a lot of kids compete at that national level and get recognized there. So hats off to this group of students and best of luck to them come the fall of the year. Congratulations. Skills USA. Skills USA is in the area kind of around the career tech ed programs. Mr. Carey is the advisor. Mr. Carey is here. Would you like to speak to the success your program has had this year?
Yeah, I have Joss here to officer for next year. My national qualifier will be heading to Atlanta middle end of June, I think 24th, for a 4-day competition down there in cosmetology. Obviously, I get there. I know nothing about cosmetology. It's kind of nice about Skills USA, you know, everything from nursing to woodworking display to criminal justice, you know, you name it, they kind of have it. So that's where it really sticks out for these kids that come from a small school. It's a place that it's an experience and the things that we can't offer. Nice shout out to the Lions Club, which are helping us financially send her there. Anytime you have success, I think it's expensive too. And Mineral Point's had a lot of success everywhere this year, which Josh, unless you got something to say, that's pretty much it on skills.
Oh, the floor is yours. Well, thank you for being here and congratulations to Skills USA and best of luck, Jets. Wow. The middle school yearbook recognized for excellence. Mrs. McCoy, would you care to speak on this?
Well, yes, I've done the yearbook for 3 years, and this is the first time it's happened under my watch. And this year I was very fortunate to have 2 students from the media program take a great interest and be editors. And that was Josie Dunn and JC Privet. Unfortunately, they both had other plans this evening and couldn't be there. But I believe the reason we got this award, we got 2 out of the 3 things. And I think it was the inclusive yearbook where 81% of their students are tagged at least 3 times in the yearbook. And that does not count like full class pictures or large groups. So I think that was they did a great job of getting everybody in the yearbook a lot of time. And then the other part, I think we probably got, they weren't really specific. We got 2 out of 3 and didn't say what, was successfully managing the creative process. And I would, it was so much fun to work with Josie and JC on that and brainstorm ideas and see like what developed. And they got lots of skills with graphic design. And then we have a lot of student photographers that really helped with the tagging too. So it was just a really great experience.
Congratulations to the middle school yearbook team. So this group has not been around very long, but has had quite a bit of success in competing in the state civics game. So I know at least one of the members is here. Would you like to speak on the state civics game? Perfect.
This is fun. We may not have well once we got there. I think we got a little flustered because like the questions are posed to you and you have to buzz in to answer the questions and not always first to buzz in. So that kind of that was a little off track, but it was still really fun, even though we might not have dressed as well as we. But it was a great experience. There, I think it's a great program to have too, because it's a great way to learn about civics outside of the classroom.
What location were you in when that picture was taken? I mean, it was in the competition, but do you know where?
It was in room 411 South, which is the large hearing room that the Senate uses at the Capitol.
Okay. So making their mark on Wisconsin, hopefully for years and years and years to come. So congratulations to our civics team. Excellence in speech. Our our forensics team has done an outstanding job again. Ms. McCoy, would you like to speak to the forensics group?
We did receive 22 gold. 22 students received the gold, 13 received the silver, and 1 a bronze. So we take a full team, and they did very, very well. And in the excellence in speech, that only goes to 15 schools in the state, and they are not. It's not on enrollment size. So we were in the top 5% in the state, and it's our 3rd year in a row. And I believe it's based on how many golds you get, the percentage of gold. I'm not really sure how they. Okay, so just kudos to our public speakers. They did an amazing job again.
Anyone wish to speak to this? I mean, forensics, it's all speaking.
Can say it's a really cool experience. It's my 3rd year doing it. I've done the same event every year, and every competition I go to, I learn more. And it helps that we have Mrs. McCoy and then Mrs. Saver and Mr. Smith. They're all very excellent. They help us a lot with going over the critiques that we receive from the judges and kind of working to improve our piece or whatever category we're in to improve for the next round. So very great organization and competition to be a part of.
So congratulations to our forensics team. Gold at State Soul Ensemble exemplary performances. I'll turn it over to my music people here. Thank you for being in attendance tonight.
Invited all 40 of our students that made it to state today. So most of that stuff going on, but we had 12 events go on the states. They all did very well. We had 6 of those performances were nominated for exemplary soloists or ensemble groups, which is the top thing you can get in the room. The judge can get the top award a judge can get. And 3 of those won. I have one. 4 won.
We have Josie and Libby Dunn's duet. We have Juliana Cole's classical solo, Libby Dunn's classical solo, and then the trio, the flutes.
Flute trio.
Of Abby Webb, our Grace Factor, and Libby Dunn.
And those would be the top things the person that's the judge had seen in that room for that day.
As a judge, I can tell you it's based on ratio. So if I have 60 kids, I'm allowed 2 people play. That's a great honor. And they represented us very well that day. It's a long day, especially for they have multiple entries in the day. So they did really well. I know the heat was on a summer-ish day. So it was a fantastic experience. I don't know if you ever. They have good judges, as I was witnessing. To me, like, it's not even really about getting the thing that was learned out of me. It's more about like the experience of what the judge has to say.
The best of the best, right?
Abby, do you have anything to share?
If it was forensics, she'd be talking all the time, right? Since it's music, she play us a little song or something. Congratulations to the band, musicians, and solos and choir. So congratulations. Mac, you're the only one here. So would you like to address the board on this? We have academic all-state wrestlers. We have one first team and one honorable mention. Rowan Carey was first team, Mac Busser honorable mention. Here to share how you did it, Mac? It has to do with their classroom, good wrestlers in the program, but also it's their academic, again, things that we have talked about many, many times in a lot of different meetings about the academic All-Americans, the academic All-State, the academic honors that our student athletes are doing. So that means they're getting it done in the classroom. So congratulations to Rowan Carey and Mac Busser for academic All-State in wrestling. Next up, All-State and All-American. Allie Baylor is part of the Dodgeville quad team. They've changed some of the lettering, which is okay in my opinion. So it's Dodgeville, Mineral Point, Iowa Grande, and Highland make up the Dodge Point gymnastics team. Allie Baylor was a member of that team and received recognition from the Wisconsin High School Gymnastics Association and then from the National High School Association. All-American awards are very difficult to achieve and a great honor. Allie earned this honor on the balance beam and floor exercise. So we have an All-American in our midst and very proud to say and congratulations to Allie Baylor. And then I don't know who's going to speak on his behalf. Coach Burrison was the Wisconsin Basketball Coaches Association State Coach of the Year for boys basketball.
I would just say that, for Coach to get this honor, I think it represents Mineral Point really well. Really good leadership is when you put the needs of the group ahead of your own. I don't think there's any better representative than that than Coach Burrison. Especially to get, not only to do that, but to get people to follow what they're trying to do and to do that. So again, being recognized this way in a way that is capped off, I think it's just a really neat thing for a guy that really deserves. Obviously, his absence at his place at this meeting is pretty much to the point that he doesn't enjoy these types of awards or anything, but he's surely deserving. So,
and there's only one of these each year in the state. So this is not, as Chris talked about in forensics, it's not by division or anything like that. There's just one Coach of the Year for boys and one Coach of the Year for girls, all divisions, all coaches. So it really is a big honor. So congratulations to Coach Burrison.
All right. Nice job, everybody. That was fun. All right. Now for something much less interesting, we're going to elect the officers for next year. So,
I did not do the little piece of paper like we've done with. Yeah.
okay. If it comes to that, we can figure something out.
Arm wrestle.
Yeah. So
Thank you everyone for showing up tonight.
We know how to clear out a room, don't we?
Yeah.
And don't feel obligated to stay because we're gonna be here for hours.
Yeah.
No, you have.
So basically how this works is we take nominations for each officer position and then we make a motion to close nominations. And then if there's more than one nomination, then we vote on those nominees.
Nominate Aaron Dunn for president.
I second. My third,
You can move to close the nominations.
move to close the nomination for president.
Second. Yeah. Do we have to, can we do a voice call or do you need to take a roll call? Okay. So I do accept the nomination. You kind of have to formally accept. So.
Too late, we didn't.
Technically, you can decline the nomination and then it's nominate somebody else. Anyway, okay, go ahead. Amy.
Bush,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Eisner,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Gelding,
Yes.
Bergstrom.
Yes.
Yes.
Did you have a speech prepared?
6-1 vote.
Okay, next, I'll take a nomination for vice president. I'll nominate Joni for vice president.
I'll second.
Okay.
move to close.
Second.
No problem.
I'm the bottleneck.
Who seconded the?
I did, Andy.
Yes. Do you accept?
Yes.
Bergstrom,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Eisner,
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. Okay, I'll take nominations for clerk. Incumbent is Mr. Harris.
I'll make a motion to keep
Second.
Mr. Harris as clerk.
You'll nominate Harris as
I'll
clerk.
nominate.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay. I'll take a motion to close nominations.
I'll move to close.
Second.
I accept.
Bush and Skelding, thank you.
Johnson,
Yes.
Gelding.
Yes.
Bergstrom,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Eisner,
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. I'll take nominations for treasurer.
I nominate Mr. Skelding.
Second.
Accept. Yeah. If there's no nominations, I'll take a motion to close nominations.
I'll make a motion to close nominations.
Yeah.
Austin Bergstrom.
Eisner,
Yes.
are you accepting?
I
Oh,
did, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Eisner,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Gelding,
Yes.
Bergstrom,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Yes. Excellent. Next is appointment for secretary. Angie is currently our secretary. She does not have to be a member of the board to be secretary. So it's the same process, Mitch, in terms of nominations, or is it a motion to appoint or?
You make a motion to appoint.
Okay,
So moved.
that's a motion to appoint Angie as secretary.
Correct.
Okay.
I'll second.
I'll vote to close the nomination.
You
I
accept the
accept.
appointment?
That's the moment.
That one's always a little touch and go. He says no.
Please, please.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Thank you, Angie. Next is establishing the board meeting dates and times for the upcoming year.
So in the board packet are the second Mondays of the month. As they fall on the calendar. You have two additionals. October 28th is when you certify the levy. And April 28th is when new board members take the oath of office. Angie and I have been having some conversations around this. The instead of doing the organizational meeting that you're doing right now in May, it could certainly be done in that April meeting. So new members would take the oath. They're now officially members, and then you could do the organization piece at that same meeting. Because typically we try to just hold that as the oath of office. That could be a 30-second meeting. So, this won't add a lot to the length of that meeting. So that would be our recommendation. And then the other date to point out would be the December 9th date. We have held that here. It's also the holiday concert for middle school, high school. So typically that one has moved up till 5 o'clock. All other board meetings are at 6, but that one has been moved up to 5 o'clock. So that would be our suggestions for the upcoming school board meeting dates and times.
This wouldn't preclude us from having a board meeting at the elementary school, right? We had talked about that, like, so maybe we could have a couple board meetings at the elementary school just to
Correct.
show interest. So this just,
You set the dates and times, and then the location can be posted
Okay.
and
great.
advertised. So if you decide to, to have something at the elementary school on any given evening,
Okay,
you
great.
can just make sure that that's posted and is
Yeah,
advertised as much as possible.
all right.
If we are at a point where we're going to referendum in November, does our late summer meetings line up with the number of days necessary for us to ensure we have our wording finalized? Or would we need a special meeting?
The end of August would be the deadline for the language for you to basically certify the language for that particular referendum. So we do have, if we had to have a second meeting, a special meeting in August to make sure everything is right, but we would be working with Quarles and Brady out of Milwaukee for the language for the resolution. So you would adopt the resolution no later than August 27th or 28th, somewhere in there. So, it could be done at the August board meeting if we think we have
Okay.
the language in time for that as well.
We take a vote on this schedule, or we just kind of discuss it and kind of come to a consensus?
Yeah, I believe, yeah.
I think the main points are maybe tentatively moving the officers and organizational part of this May meeting to the April oath taking meeting. And then the other thing is just December 9th is prior to the evening holiday concert. And so we try to squeeze that in 5 to 7. I think, now that we're doing our bills payable a little more regularly and on a weekly basis, we're less timely like second Monday to get our bills paid. So if December 9th ends up being a huge agenda, we can either have 2 separate meetings, or we could just move the date, and be flexible that way. But we can tentatively plan on just doing that Monday at 5.
I think a year ago we switched from a 7 p.m. to a 6 p.m. or has that been 2 years? Does that still meet everybody's?
In a year, what? Yeah.
I think it's been a year.
Yeah, I think this is the first year you've gone with
Okay.
6 o'clock meetings.
Do we like 6 better than 7?
6.
Yeah.
I prefer it. So we get home a little earlier.
Mhm.
Is that okay?
There also, there's the levy that we certify in October. Wasn't there also some state data that gets released in November? Or there was something where it's and then it happens a week after we have the board meeting.
November 11th is the Monday. My guess, looking into the crystal ball, would be November 12th is when the data becomes unembargoed after that.
I don't know if there's any function of moving it later. I just remember there's something in our parking lot notes about pay attention to this this fall because it might make sense to have it.
I think in your board work calendar, December is that month to then, kind of share out the report card data and those kinds of things.
Okay.
I have October is fall STAR test data, November is fall YRBS data, and December is ACT scores.
ECT and probably would be the report card.
Report card.
Yeah.
Mhm. Usually it's after that. Okay. Yeah, no, good questions. Okay, we'll move forward with that schedule as proposed. Mitch, thank you.
Yep.
Right, next is the board member stipends. Currently the stipend's at 600 annually. And then the secretary also receives a stipend for her service at each meeting. Any discussion or recommendations to change or keep?
Vote on that one.
Well, I'll take a motion to approve the current salaries, and if there's a second, we can have a discussion.
Make that motion.
I'll second.
Just a reminder that, you can decline the stipend, and you can also, use it however you see fit. You got some flexibility with that if anyone feels uncomfortable. Receiving that,
Are we in open discussion?
if we're in discussion,
Okay.
yes.
I feel like given our budget constraints, 600 is like, we definitely not something that we should increase. But I also think that, and I don't think any of us do this for the compensation, but we are, we definitely put in more time than is reflected by a $50 a month stipend, especially the person serving the president role. And so I'm not in any way recommending we go any higher, but I don't think that that should be used as a way of gauging the effort that the members of this board put into the service that we give to this district.
Agreed. I think probably table it for a future date, but at some point, depending on how many people volunteer to run for school board, that number might have to get looked at. Just the cost of finding a babysitter and meals and all that stuff.
For sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's always the thing we're considering, and
Your use of committees, which mean at least one, if not two other nights out besides the board meeting night.
It's prohibitive for somebody who's either works nights or has a single.
Okay, well, I mean, just kind of keep your ears open in terms of if you hear people saying, well, I would run for school board, but so not really hearing that, but you do. Okay, any other discussion for this? We'll vote. Okay.
Bush,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Eisner,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Gelding,
Yes.
Bergstrom.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. Okay, standing committees, we've got operations, policy, personnel, and finance. So I guess first question is, do we like these four committees, and do we feel like this covers everything we need to do to help run the school district? Second question would be, do you want to change committees or serve on a different committee? And then the last question would be, if anyone wants to serve as chair of any of the committees. This is where we haggle and swap and do all that. That's right. So we could keep everything the same, but
I'd like
it's
to
totally
give-
open.
I'd like to give somebody else an opportunity to potentially run like the operations. I've done that the last 2 years. And give Rachel policy and I would do personnel.
You want personnel? You've got it.
I'll chair personnel. I've
Okay.
never done that committee, so.
Great. And Rachel has policy.
I did not accept that role.
Would anyone else like to do operations or
Or
policy?
volunteer for operations.
Okay.
I like operations. I want to stay on operations.
I'm sure policy. Seems like you'll keep policy.
I don't know if two people should chair two committees.
There are two people sharing.
I'm sorry, one person should chair two committees.
Oh, I agree with that. Oh, because you picked up another one just now.
Yeah, your personnel.
Andy, if you're going to stay on finance, I would like to be the second in finance. You're okay with that? Unless,
If everybody's okay with it.
yeah, sorry.
I'd like to be the third if nobody wants to be on there.
Going into this year, actually, we
Well,
should all just be on finance committee. I mean,
Maybe a lot.
Is that right? Barry, have you been on it before?
I don't think so, but
Okay, I'll switch. I'll switch
Sure.
to something else.
Joey's got on or personnel. If you're trying to avoid me, you're doomed.
You're the policy expert, so.
On personnel, Rachel?
Skelding's got personnel chair
Rachel's
and Rachel,
second.
Rachel wants to be on personnel committee.
So you want me to switch to policy?
You want to chair it? You don't have to switch to policy. I'm just asking you if you would like to chair it.
I really don't.
Don't either.
I will support
I am
you.
We're-
clinically disorganized. My
We're
students-
we're a small board and everybody's gonna have to
Yeah,
be in charge of a committee and be an officer at some point.
I'll chair policy.
And then, because we have the WASB and the WASB guideline, some of the policy is going to be set for a little while too, kind of what the agendas are as we just continue to work forward on that. So
If Christy took the bold leap of chairing, I would serve on the policy committee. Under your leadership. Yes.
take her under your wing.
Continue to be on it. If
Policy?
we need a third policy person,
You sure do. That sounds great.
unless somebody else wanted it.
Okay, Angie, so I got on policy, I've got Chair Johnston plus Eisner and Bergstrom. And for finance, I have Chair Bush plus Heisner and Skelding. Did I hear that right? Okay. Operations is Harris Chair. Operations is Harris Chair. And then I think I'm on ops.
You and I are on ops,
Okay, so I can stay on ops.
and I want to stay on ops.
You want to stay on ops. So ops is Harris Chair and then Dunn Johnston. And then personnel, I've got Skelding Chair plus Bergstrom. Does anyone else want to be on personnel? Otherwise, I'm happy to, I come to the meetings.
Do they
Say
meet on the-
personnel again?
Do they meet on the same night? Operations personnel?
Policy.
Finance.
That could be switched.
I should have thought that through before I coordinated my volunteering. That's fine. I typically don't stay for both hours. Personnel is who?
You're already on two committees,
Yeah,
so you're good.
so I'm giving up personnel.
You're giving up, well, yes.
Yes,
You are,
okay.
if you want to be on ops and
Policy.
policy. So, Will, if you want to be on a second committee, personnel's open. And Andy,
Did you chair
Otherwise-
something?
I'm chairing operations.
Oh, but you went to finance.
I can be a personnel.
got it? Okay. Great. Thanks, guys.
And we're gonna maintain our current operations policy, finance, personnel. The nights we're currently doing it. Day Wednesday prior to work.
We see how it shakes out. Maybe switch which nights
We
do
do
what.
personnel finance on Monday and ops policy on Wednesdays.
That's what it has been.
Yeah.
Yes, sounds good. Great, thanks, guys. Next is appointment of the CISA 3 delegate.
You want to do that, right?
Incumbent is
Yeah,
You're working on something, aren't you?
yep. So I'm on the CISA 3 Board of Control, so
I nominate Joni Heisner.
pretty engaged.
Second.
We need to vote on that or no, just get through it. Great.
Do you have another Yarowasby delegate in
Yeah,
here?
that's fine.
Mr. Harris. Okay. Harris says yes. Okay, and then reminder to donate to the Sunshine Fund before you leave.
Does the school have Venmo?
No.
I asked all those questions last year.
Work on cash.
So we physically have to give you a $20 bill or more. We have to like physically give you cash. Yes. Okay.
You can do a Western Union
It's
transfer
encouraged,
too.
it's not mandatory.
Yes.
Can it be a check if people still have those?
Yes.
Okay.
Gold bars.
Yeah.
But no Venmo.
Just not Venmo.
The balloons.
And thanks to everyone who's contributed. Use that for funeral memorials, $50 donation that goes to the endowment.
Thanks for organizing that. Good thing. Okay. Next, we'll go to consent agenda. I'll take a motion to approve the minutes of our various meetings, bills payable and credit card statement of activity
I'll make the motion.
together.
Second.
Harrison Skelding. So for those following at home, we had the regular April meeting, oath of office meeting on April 24th. Personnel committee met on May 6th. We met with staff reps after that same night, and then operations and policy met on May 8th. Any discussion about the minutes or anything else on the consent agenda?
Harris,
Yes.
Heisler,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Gelding,
Yes.
Bergson.
Yes.
Bush.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, next we'll go to communications. We'll start with board communications. Andy, you want to go first?
I don't think I had any that were not the full board. Actually had a few conversations, with people, after the school play. Just how excited they were that that was part of our club group now. I just communicated to them a little bit. My takeaway watching it was, like how involved and interactive the students were that were in the play, and what a large group of kids that got along. And I just remarked that it's just another opportunity for our students who, to find something to belong to and find people to belong with, and another advisor or staff member for them to connect with. So I think just the more we can continue to do those things and offer those things, and as long as people understand that those things, none of those things are free, but they're super important. As we move towards referendum, I think that's something that will definitely help keep our community safe for years to come.
Just another great example of, a teacher champion. I mean, there was no drama club 2 years ago. There was no play in the spring. And Mr. Smith comes along and he's like, hey, let's do a play in the spring. And it's been awesome. So, but I mean, that's a lot of work for a teacher after hours, to commit to that. So, but I think the kids love it and community loves it. So, great. Christine.
No, I haven't had any emails. Okay, yeah.
I think I had one. I think we all got one at the very end of April around community daycare, younger age daycare. Just like requesting that, like, instead of just, you know, well, we've added this last year, go down to a younger age band, whatever.
I don't know if you guys were involved in any follow-up with that, but that got referred to Mr. Wainwright, so he's met about that. And I know that this person was also reached out to the city and one other agency. I don't remember off the top of my head, but you know, trying to explore if anybody can offer the community. So hopefully something good will come out of that.
Yeah, the only email I got was the daycare topic. We did talk about it at operations last Wednesday. No final details to share, but Member Johnston has been in talks with some other local area institutions, I'll say, and seems like there's some potential momentum where the school could be a partner to something. We don't know what that looks like, but more details to follow.
Nothing.
So I have a couple. The first, some conversations during and after the spring concerts that were held. I think that was just last week. The concerts themselves were lovely, but this year there was also a visual arts display for art pieces made by our junior high and high school students, and lots of comments on how nice it was to see the visual arts represented and have an opportunity for those students to showcase their work. So big shout out to Mr. Hatfield on making a mark there. And then I had a discussion with a parent who had contacted me regarding a concern about a teacher sharing political opinions in a classroom. I've had a conversation with Superintendent Wainwright about that, and he will follow up on that however he deems appropriate. And then my third one was around another parent had reached out regarding a lack of transparency around the National Honor Society selection, and asking if the district could provide greater clarity either to the criteria or the rubric used to make selection decisions. So not necessarily about individual students, but about what the approach is as a whole. And again, I've had that discussion with Superintendent Wainwright, and he will follow up as is appropriate. That's it.
I had a couple of additional things. I had some good positive comments about prom and how that went, and how seemed like a larger proportion of kids had fun. And I haven't heard anything negative about anyone feeling uncomfortable. So I think there were some improvements made there on multiple fronts. So that was good. And then Mr. Wainwright and I are working with a community member who is very concerned about the fairness of our transportation bus routes. And you know, we've been providing any records as requested, if any minutes going far back, you know, before the year 2000 that could be found. That's ongoing. I don't have anything specific to add, but we're doing everything we can, you know, as indicated under open meetings or open records law. So you can post it. Yeah, and then I had a few people ask me about, after the Mount Horeb incident, about, are our schools safe? How are our doors? Are we secure? Do we have adults at the doors when school starts? You know, related to when all that went down, Mount Horeb. So I've been following up with administration and make sure that we're doing the best we can there. Okay, I think that's all I got. Citizen communications, did anyone sign up?
Nope.
Angie? Okay. Anyone online, if you'd like to have your 3 minutes to public comment, you can use the raise hand icon. And we'll call on you. Going once, going twice. Okay. Thank you all for joining. All right. Next is items for information and discussion. We'll introduce the Earthwise Student Club. All
right, well, hopefully.
Yeah, come on up. So we're not see you and hear you. Thank you. Just as long as you can see yourself. There you go.
So, Chuck Tennyson, I'm one of the co-advisors of the Earthwise Club, and in a minute, the students are going to introduce themselves and tell you about the terrific stuff they've done with this club that isn't even a calendar year old yet. But before we do that, I want to thank you as a board on behalf of the Earthwise Club for what you've done to support us, but even more so what you do for our students in our community here in Mineral Point. We're very, very grateful. So that's me.
I'm Brett Jenkins. I've been working with Chuck alongside Chuck for the last 2 years. Working with Mineral Point primarily and Dodgeville, working with environmental clubs. It's been a pleasure to watch these students grow and take the reins. And without your support, it wouldn't have happened. So Dr. Dunn, Mr. Wainwright, Mr. Austin, thanks for your support. Appreciate it.
Hi everyone, I'm Kalea. I'm a sophomore and I am the president of the EWC this year. So I'll basically just talk about how we got started. So Chuck and Brett last year, towards the end of the year, posted a contest kind of asking us to propose plans for sustainability within our school. So I entered in the contest with a proposal to use solar on schools, which means we would be basically using solar power. And I just talked about how beneficial that would be for both the environment and for cutting costs as a school district. And then I actually placed first in that contest. And later Chuck reached out to me about potentially forming kind of a group to talk about sustainability within our school and just kind of keep that momentum going within our district. So we started having meetings over the summer and we invited community members to come. We actually had Dr. Dunn come and Mr. Austin and the faculty of the school's encouragement and cooperation during that. So really at these meetings, we were just talking about, it was kind of a brainstorming session. We were just thinking, what can we do in the short term while solar on schools isn't really going to happen right away. So yeah, and I just remember those meetings being a time of a lot of excitement and inspiration. It was just a really exciting environment to be in.
I'm Landon Mullers, sophomore. So a few projects we've done so far are Adopt a Highway, which we did the section of highway, which is 151 right outside the school. It was pretty fun that day. We got to enjoy hanging out with people. We went in groups of like 2 to 3 main parts of it. And then we had lunch that day as a group. Then we had our science festival, which we had a few little tiny posters and awareness models. And we had our solar tracker demonstration, and a recycling poster. And then we also had an Earth Week just recently, where we got students involved with can for a cookie, decorate a tote bag, picnics, and sidewalk art.
Alright, so something else we did was we had a recycling promotion, and we requested and got in additional bins because while there were a lot of bins in the school, not every single classroom and room in our school had a recycling bin. That was kind of the first thing on our list. Was an easy thing that we can do is make sure that we are recycling as much as possible. So we got new bins and got them in every single room, and we printed out and laminated some posters to put on them so students were aware of what can actually go in the recycling bin. So that was one of our biggest things that we did. And in addition, this is part of our Earth Week, we had a petition for the students that we were asking the district to begin a comprehensive process to reduce our energy use. We said as a student body, we pledged to do our part in helping this process because this is our school, our future, and our planet. We had 258 members from the middle and high school sign our petition, so that was pretty good. And we celebrated our petition with cookies and Quick Trip coupons. And we would also like to congratulate the school because we have received an Office of Energy Innovation grant. And this will pay for a comprehensive energy assessment of our building, which is just what we asked for in our petition. So that worked out perfectly. And just a little brief thing about it, it's Mineral Point and Dodgeville were included in a grant with 8 other Wisconsin schools. And our 2 schools were asked to join in the grant because of the activism that we've had from our student body and our support that we've received from faculty. So, and we are very interested in helping and continuing with this energy assessment and anything else that we can do.
There we have it. Any questions or comments for the fine young folks?
Just say, let us know what we can do. And anytime you want to come talk to the board, just let Dr. Dunn or Mitch know, and we'd love to have you come talk about what you're doing and what help you need.
Thank you for your efforts.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, next is a report out from the social emotional learning team.
Angie, are you okay if I share this with anybody online as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Amy and Alex are coming. They're nervous. We told Amy this was her summative evaluation for the year. You have to present to the board. We used the same format that we used in the fall. So we just went ahead and kind of looked at our board, at the board policies and the goals that you've established for SEL, and then have an update for you. So the front page is no different. It's just a reminder of the SEL framework for Wisconsin and the sources of strength wheel. And then I'll turn it over to you guys since the elementary is first.
So we've just continued with the sources of strength curriculum, still in those 6 classrooms, and we're hoping with the training this summer we'll spread that out a little bit more. I have been going into classrooms, and then teacher and then one reg ed teacher has started doing it as well. So just hoping that the more that are trained, the more that will start doing it. It's really great, and I'm a big fan walking into it for my first year. I actually had 2 5th grade students. So there's like a really great lesson on calming corners, and these 2 students came to me and they're like, this is really important. We want to provide a safe place for kids to process their emotions with a little privacy, but stay in the classroom. And so we created a PowerPoint presentation, and we went to classrooms. And one thing that was really big is like the rules, because sometimes, we just need to set those boundaries. And then strategies and tools. We made some tools. So these kids really just took that on, and it was really great. So I'm proud of them.
Yeah, as you could see, I was just editing this, and you can see my font is completely off. I apologize for that. It has been a very busy end of the year, and it's been great, but so I apologize for any typos, but I am teaching a social skills improvement system, which is a tier 1 like behavioral SEL curriculum for students, and it's taught about once a week. And this has been going on since last year, and we're going to continue into next year. We're learning every day. And then they also get screened 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. It's screened 3 times a year for their social emotional learning and their mental health. And that allows us to figure out what those students need and what groups they need, and those individual interventions.
And then just this week was the sense of belonging survey. Do you want to talk about just a little bit about that?
I would love to. It's been so fun. Yes, so we have 210 results, and I'm pretty excited. If you scroll down, I think I put a snapshot in there. So there's one of 7 questions, and the questions came from the Sources of Strength on their site. This was a pretty awesome one. There are adults at my school that care about me. We have 86.2% that say yes.
The rest of the questions, I don't have that information yet. I apologize. But so far things are looking really good.
And I believe the elementary survey correlates to the middle school survey that's given, and then to the YRBS questions that are given at the high school level. So this is the first time we really surveyed the elementary students on those same types of questions. And we just did it in this last week. So she literally got the responses this morning, I think. So we haven't looked through all of them.
If you want to see.
Yeah, so we haven't looked through all of them, but the data now is being collected K-12.
You know, kindergarten has a hard time filling out online, so we just give them paper forms, so it takes a little bit more time.
Like other districts are like scoring on that question or no?
So I know based upon YRBS results, but like the state averages, and I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, I do think we're higher than
like
the
that.
state average. And I think it goes down below the middle school result. I think they were up to 90.1 from like an 89 at the beginning of the year. So we're consistently 85 to 90, but obviously we want to catch that 10% that's left too, to make sure that they know somebody here cares for them. So middle school, just kind of an update, continuing to use Choose Love. So yeah, they were at 90.6 when they just administered that May survey about feeling connected with at least one person in the building here. We just concluded a Sources of Strength week, mental health matters. So the topics are there that we've covered since we were here in November or January. The Sources group has presented at the Kiwanis Club. They attended the homecoming parade. They were represented at the middle school science night, the high school spring play. Obviously had a lot of information about sources with just the content of the play itself. Information was shared on Future Freshman Night, and then May 30th. May 30th, I'll be taking a panel group over, and they will be presenting at the Community Mental Wellness Summit that is held at Southwest Tech in Fenimore. So,
We are also focusing on mental health at the elementary as well.
Yeah, we do the same words.
The same words and almost the same plan, so.
Yep.
The thing with YRBS, it doesn't give you what your neighbor is doing. It might say, hey, here's how Mineral Point's doing, here's how
the state
is doing, but it doesn't tell you compared to any of our surrounding schools. Like,
So we can look at county level.
Can we?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I
believe Iowa County, you
Okay.
can look at Iowa County
Okay. So-
representation.
and it's down below, but like the middle school YRBS from last year is still not released as of like when we looked last week. So I don't know what the holdup is, but so we still only have high school results. Yes.
I did. So back at the elementary, there was a very small sliver of students who might not feel like there's anyone who cares. Do we have an idea of who those students might be, and do we have targeted interventions?
That is a great question. No, I told them not to put their name on it because I wanted to leave it anonymous because the YRBS, I believe, is anonymous. And so I think students feel more comfortable reporting honest answers, but that's the tricky part where we get stuck not knowing who those particular kids are. Fortunately, a lot of the kids wrote their names on it anyways. And so we are able to follow up with a couple of those kids, but that is a really great question.
I think that's why we look at like the tier one. What are those tier one, the supports that all of our students are getting? So we can just be more explicit maybe with some of the information that we're sharing and what we're teaching and what lessons we're doing, because it's not, if the two of you, if you said no and you said yes, it's not like I want to swarm to you. I want you both to continue to feel supported. So I think the anonymous part is okay, as long as we know we have to do a better job to reach all of our students.
We do a mental health assessment for 3rd through 5th, which doesn't cover everyone, but with that, you can get a lot of information and we know which kid that is and which results those are. So
we'll look at those results, and then that actually, like, we kind of have our groups and our individuals that teachers bring to us, but then we use that data to then start more groups, which was super helpful for me because there are some kids that you wouldn't, they don't come out and say, hey, I need you. Right?
internalizing behavior versus externalizing.
I really think that.
You said that you were using the same language. So is that like shared language in the school that's being used? Could that be shared with families so that we could start using that language at home?
I think yes. So one of our big goals for next year is to do some community events around sources, to tie in the schools and the families and the community itself. And I think that's a natural way to lend language. And we're also looking at bringing back those family, it used to be FAST, some parent family engagement activities next year as well, so that we're doing some shared teaching with families who might need additional supports, and then we're able to share those same language and yeah, I think absolutely. I think there's only ways to continue to grow that.
Okay, thank you.
So goal 2 has to do with student support teams. We continue to meet bi-weekly with administration and pupil services, bringing in the teachers when they need it. I would say, although we hope it continues to grow, this is the year we've gotten the most referrals from teachers. I think we just got a couple in the last couple of weeks, so it's not like they're ending just because we're getting close to school. And then, just reporting out, making sure you guys are aware with your investment and making sure we have a full pupil service team in comparison to lots of districts. It has allowed us to reach a lot more students. So just, the numbers of groups and small groups and individual counseling that can go on between Alex, Amy, Erica, and Danny. It's funny because Amy, she has 4 small groups. It's four small groups right now, like going on right now, not like over the course of the year, right? So if we were to add those up, it would be a far larger number. So
I have 11 groups right now. Sorry, 11 groups over the year. So
okay,
right now I have about 4 groups as well.
And then number 3, I would say this is the goal where we probably didn't make the most gains, and it wasn't that we were overlooking it. So we really wanted to start on continuing with the SHAPE assessment and making sure we're looking at a system K-12 wise. We've always had an elementary team, a middle school team, a high school team, and really trying to focus on the district team. And I will say this was probably the one we lagged on the most. We do have some interest in a district team. It basically reached out to everybody, re-invited them to the team. You've done it in the past. If this is now a passion of yours, I had a lot of responses from pupil services and a lot from special ed. So really we're trying to bulk up and make sure that everyone across the district is represented. So we will be holding our first meeting in August and then taking the SHAPE assessment in September. So we did not do the SHAPE assessment again this spring. We talked about it. The members of pupil service were like, should we do the SHAPE assessment? I said, I don't think it's us doing the SHAPE assessment. Like, yes, we could if we want to tell the board we did it, but then it's not representative of everybody. So we just have been more focusing on making sure that the team representation for the district is there. And then, like I said, we'll get together. We're finding a date those last 2 weeks of August before school starts so we can actually meet, organize ourselves before school even starts, and then come up with the process of what we'll focus on for the year with the schedule. And then the YRBS, I don't really have anything to add because we have been waiting. I don't know what the holdup is. It just said there was a scoring error. And Eric has gotten a couple updates and she's inquired, and then we were like, yep, it should be coming out. And that was like 2 months ago. So, we'll continue to watch that. Next year is an odd year, so we will be able to participate next spring in the YRBS at the middle school and high school level. And I don't know, there is like an elementary box. I don't know if we can elect to do the elementary. I don't think we ever have. Do you know?
I can look into it, but I don't think so.
I just know when the results come, like elementary is one of the boxes, but I don't know if that's just because in SAFE, that's how it looks, or if there really is a YRBS at the elementary level. I don't know of any elementary school that's ever taken one. So
yeah, I haven't heard of that.
I've not.
But I know Miss Brunson has or will sign us up to do the middle school, high school one again. In the odd years, we will elect to participate.
I mean, we're just youth, so
yeah,
I feel that. I don't know.
Yeah.
When you say we haven't gotten results yet, Mineral Point's results haven't been published, or the state hasn't released like over anybody's results?
I don't think anybody's middle school results have been released. No, I don't think anybody's results at the middle school have been released.
Okay.
And we do have the high school ones, which we shared very preliminarily at the last time, but it's nice to, if we can look at both schools kind of as a collective, and just, I don't know what the holdup is. I've never had them take so long to score, so. And I don't know what the scoring difference would be with high school and middle school. You'd think it would be the same software, but apparently not. So, anything else you guys wanted to add?
Any questions? There's a lot of information and I know it can be a lot.
We continue to meet on, I should say, we as a pupil service staff, school nursing, school psych, counseling, myself, and school social work meet as a PLC once a month on Friday mornings, just because our Wednesdays are usually attributed to other PLC groups. And so it gives us that time to connect and focus. And we actually go and meet out at Options so that we can all leave the building and not get interrupted while we're trying to focus on our own work. So we do set aside designated time for us to meet as a team.
Yeah, which is huge.
Continue to talk, so.
Does everybody know Amy and Alex? Do you know the roles that they fill for the district? Okay.
Sure. Yeah. I would just say, keep doing the work you guys are doing. Like our daughter and her friends talk about sources of strength, like it's a curriculum and it's just cool. I mean, and they talk about it in a positive way. They're like, sources of strength. So it's just cool. So they're listening. So keep it up.
And I think with like the visualness, like, it's the same charts across the buildings. I do think elementary kids are seeing it at high school, or high school kids come down and they're talking about it too. You can tell that it's definitely something that the district is doing K-12. And I love that we've altered our elementary words to align with the sources wheel. And so everybody's doing the same month and continuously trying, admin and people services and the teams talk about, like what can we do K-12 wise to represent this, which I think is really nice.
And in class today, almost every kid could say the word of the month or the focus is mental health. They just blurted it out loud, which is what I look for, is just that they're really into it. So, yeah.
Chrissy, were you going to say something?
Yeah. Did you all have the high school students come down to the elementary school and do stuff? That was a huge hit, just so you know.
Awesome.
Yeah. Someone's still talking about it.
Right. Well, and is that the one where some elementary came up here and some went down there? Yes. We were split because we didn't think we could bring.
That was a pretty big deal.
There was another one, wasn't there?
Yeah.
That was like Christmas-ish. We did it. Is that the one you're talking about?
No, it was more recently.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But then we also did one during Christmas where we all.
Have we done recently?
Recently, I don't believe.
He talks about it like it was yesterday still.
Whoa.
Pretty sure it was.
Government went down to the elementary and
there you go. Anytime the high school kids of any way, shape, form, leadership, the sports team, the civics, anytime the high schoolers are in the building, it is a big deal.
But coming up here too, that was like the best thing that's ever happened to him in his life. So, yeah.
Do you feel that the board set this as a priority, and then we basically said, we think this is important, here you go. Do you feel like you, A, have you felt our support, and B, do you feel like you've moved the bar?
I think two things. I think just you guys saying this is a priority for the district was a huge step, because it's not in a lot of districts. And you've backed it by giving us the staff we need to do the work. I also like that you've said, okay, now take it over, because it gives us the autonomy to say, this is where we need it to go. So, I rely upon them, as to let me know where to go to, because it's not, I'm not the person driving this. Like, we have to get the input of what we need to drive it. So I think that I feel like we have that. I think there's always like reorganization and focus. And so like, I look back and I was like, oh, we really didn't do much on number 3, like we should have done. But then I look at what we've done in so many other areas that collectively, I just know it's a process, right? Like, we always revise and review and refine, and then we come back next year. And, for whatever reason, creating a district SEL team was not at the top of my list this year for lots of other reasons. And that's okay. And I think we have to give ourselves the grace, because I know the amazing work that's going on that they're all doing. And just seeing the growth of like sources in the classroom, knowing we're bringing that trainer, like looking back up here at like the students that participated in the training, like we're making an impact in lots of ways, even if we didn't have a team that sat down and met every month, so.
Yes, thank you very much. The mental health needs are high, and I'm sure we all know that. Not just here, but everywhere. And it just needs to be number one priority, in my opinion, so.
But I think the biggest part is we're normalizing the discussion about it. And that's the most important part, is it's just become part of our vocabulary. So, like you said, our elementary kids can say this month is mental health, and that's really important for them to be able to do that. So
I think with sources too, like going into the same classroom every week and having that conversation, it picks up right where you left off. And so every kid, can share and give you examples of each word of the month. And it's really cool. And then having the teacher be a part of it, which I think would be so powerful if the teachers were teaching it. I selfishly really enjoy it. I like it, but I think them being able to carry that language all day, every day would be, the missing piece. But yeah, I really enjoy it. It's a great program.
I think another benefit is if you look out in the cafeteria, the wall kind of that separates the stage out is some of the high school components of sources. So any student from the elementary that's here for any kind of event can see this is not just something I have to do down here. This is something that even the high school kids are doing. So I think it helps build a little bit stronger community, a little more sense of, hey, we're all doing this together.
Does that answer your
That did
question?
answer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you very much.
Great job.
Thank you. We'll be back in November.
Okay, next is first reading of policies. Mitch, you want to just run through them, or?
Sure. First policy is parents' rights in relation to district programs, activities, and student privacy. Second policy, and these came off of the WASB policy review. So these were the mandatory ones, the first six. So part-time open enrollment kind of addresses the fact that students can take up to 2 classes if they're homeschooled, or we have students or students from other communities can take classes here if their school does not offer them. So if somebody had an AP physics teacher and we had students that wanted to take it, and let's say they're the AP physics teachers in Dodgeville, we could contact Dodgeville and through open enrollment have our students go there and take that class. So it's you can just be there for a period during the course of the day if that's how it works out. Early college credit program, just updating that one. Selection of textbooks and other classroom instructional materials and resources. You've done this one. You updated the library portion of this policy. This one basically comes back to the classroom and the textbooks, basically looking at similar kinds of criteria. Ensuring the education stability of children in out-of-home care, such as foster care, basically. It's policy 411.3, and then policy 526.1 is employee references and verification, basically just things that WASB had looked at that said, we can't find these policies in your policy manual. These you should address first. The policy committee reviewed samples from WASB, made recommendations. Sometimes there was only one policy. From the committee meeting, I took the recommendations back to Angie. She made them Mineral Point versions. So anywhere that might have been, fill in name here or, fill in the blank. She's gone through that and done that for the school district on behalf of the board committee meeting. So this would be basically the first reading. Those policies are in your binder or in your board packet.
So the policies as presented still include like the sample language, with the editor's notes and like sample policy ones, that'll just be cleaned up as part of our normal.
Yep. So for the second reading, that will all come out and it will be, at that point, it'll be adopted June of 2024.
These have been unanimously approved out of policy committee after whatever necessary discussion.
We vote on them tonight or just it's the reading and then next meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do 2 readings before they
Yep.
take effect, so. Questions or concerns?
Oh, feels good filling in gaps in our policy. Getting everything up to date, so. Glad this is happening. Okay, we'll move on to the Summer Kids Club report.
So this came up in Operations Committee on Wednesday evening, looking at the enrollment numbers. We have 20 families. We have 25 Mineral Point students that have signed up. 3 students attend a school in another district, and 2 students are moving into the district. So it gives us a total of 31 students. We will need to follow up on the students that do not attend our school, that have not attended our school, because according to the handbook language, they are not eligible to attend this program because it is for Mineral Point students. So we'll be following up there. There's the potential that some of these students may be coming back to us to become pointers once again. So that'll take some follow-up on our part. The breakdown based on those students enrolled. We have 22 students on Monday, 27 on Tuesday, 22 again on Wednesday, 28 on Thursday, and 15 students on Friday. Again, a pretty good stretch of students throughout the days. Friday, obviously, light day, which will allow maybe some staffing flexibility, maybe some rotations or things like that. That recommendation comes a little bit later, but and we are reviewing the applications. We've actually sent out a district application now. I reached out to a list that was provided. We have it posted on Indeed.
The only one on Indeed is the one for the special education network.
Okay, thank you.
The other one we have sent, and they were due tomorrow, I think. Shelby reached out to all of them to send them just a general application and ask them to submit a resume so that we can review those applicants tomorrow to set up interviews. But the Indeed we posted for the one-to-one support. Were they all directly sent to you? Shelby did the contacts for Mitch and I, so I'm assuming they're coming back to her. I received. Did you? Yeah, if you want to send it down to Shelby. I think they just went to Shelby because then Tom and I could review them. Oh, okay. I have no idea.
We're moving forward with the Summer Kids program, getting staffing in place, and we've got the schedules from there.
We'll talk a little bit more about it when we approve the staffing for that club, but anyone have any questions at this time? Okay. Report on our food service program.
I continue to work with Dr. Nutter at CESA 3. There is a desire to potentially have a food service director support more than one school district as a cost-saving measure. Years ago, when Mineral Point had its own food service program, we did contract with an individual out of the Mount Horeb School District to be that DPI certified food service director. So they basically created the menu on a monthly basis and then filled out all the reports. I think they came here once a month, maybe twice a month at most. So it wasn't like anything that was somebody was here, and taking away a lot of the time, and then the rest of the staff was available. So we're looking at potentially being able to provide that opportunity again, which may end up being a little bit more of a cost savings for the district by moving away from the current food service provider. But we are full speed ahead and have plans in place to serve breakfast and lunch come next school year.
Are we keeping exactly the same staff?
Yes.
Okay. And same pay scale and everything like that? Okay. So pretty smooth transition, in your opinion?
That's been my conversations with them, with the staff members, that this is the intention. And so far, no one has said, I don't want that. Everybody has been on board. So
Have they, on board as in like, yep, that they're happy about this move, or at least satisfied with the direction of our food service program?
based on my last conversations, yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Do they sign a new contract at any point?
And we get to the start of the year.
Start of the year? Okay. The verbal agreement makes me a little nervous, but I'm sure all in good time. Okay. Any other questions about that? When does the food service director officially start? Is there a summer start date at all to kind of ramp up, or menu plan, or?
Yes,
anything?
they'll typically, in the past years, our food service director has maybe checked in once the school year's done in June, they wrap up the rest of the June, get inventory done, all of those kinds of things. They might check in one time in July, and then again, first part of August. And then as we get closer to the start of the school year, then they'll start to show up a little bit more. So that kind of be the same schedule we would be looking at moving forward, so that we have all of the reports filled out and we know potentially, we kind of get an idea of, hey, we're up for food service inspection. The DPI is going to send out a inspector, sometime in the fall, sometime in the spring, those kinds of things. So any of those kinds of reports will be taken care of over the summer, typically in August. So they'll be on board by that time and, ramping up, getting menus prepared and making sure that the commodities are ordered, and we have milk deliveries, bread deliveries, all of those things will be taken care of in August. So we're ready for September start date. And typically I work with them for a welcome back for staff. It might be the food service director and maybe one other staff member that might help prepare the breakfast or whatever we need at the start of the school year for the staff.
Next is a budget update.
So the budget process update for 24-25. The routine is in March, I send out an email to staff members. Usually the cutoff date is the Friday we go on spring break. I would like, if you have any big ticket items or any items that you've been holding off to purchase, please submit those purchase orders for the remainder of the school year. So if I need 10 pounds of clay for my art room, or if I need, rebar for welding, or whatever the case may be, what do you need? Can we get those orders, at least get the purchase orders into the system by that Friday before they take off for spring break? I also ask for budget requests for the upcoming school year. So for the 4-5 school year, what do you think you're going to need for your next school year, so that we can start to have that information? Danielle, the building principals collect it. Danielle puts it in to our budgeting software to start looking at. It's like, okay, where are we in comparison to the 3-4 school year? What's the 4-5 school year look like? Our requests, are they up? Are they down? Are they flat? So the building principal has been looking through some of those kinds of things. Danielle said she'll get it to me after they've all had an opportunity to kind of go through it and say, this is a nice to have, not a gotta have. So we're just going to start pulling some of those things out of those budget requests. And then I'll look at it one last time. Some of the things we like to do, if there's something we know we can get yet out of the 3-4 budget. We will do that, potentially help with our budget moving forward. So June, we'll have a finance committee meeting to kind of go through that and look at where are some of those big ticket items. Is there a particular area where the budget went up? I'll say 10%. And when we get a report from Skyward, I see all of that. I see, somebody decreased their budget request by 5%. Somebody increased theirs by 10%. I try to look at it as a whole. If we can try to maintain those purchases, that dollar amount, the same. So if somebody does go up 10% and somebody else reduces by 10%, does that balance my budget out as a whole? And then I'll look at it one last time to say, yeah, this has to get pushed off somewhere else, or we can't afford this, or this may have to come out of a different budget at a different time. So that'll be all in advance of the finance committee and the board's preliminary approval of the budget at the June meeting. So that's kind of the process we've gone through every year since I've been in this role, is trying to get a look at next year's budget, trying to make some of those reductions now, have staff members prioritize. If I can only give you $2,000 instead of $3,000, what are those top priorities that you need that come in at that $2,000 amount? We're trying to give the staff as much say in what they get for supplies moving into the next school year as possible. So that's kind of the process we go through for setting next year's budget. And then budget comparison. In your board book, you'll see a year ago we were at about 72.6%. Now we've kind of switched it around. This time is the first time this school year that we've been a little bit ahead. So in 24, we're at 73.9% of the budget expended. In conversations with Danielle, very comfortable that we will not be in any kind of fiscal crisis between now and the end of the fiscal year. She doesn't see anything that's going to throw up red flags that we're going to be way over budget and needing to get fund balance to cover any of our costs, any of that nature. We are tracking in a very good light for the rest of this fiscal year.
Can you remind me what line 8 is, the interfund fee?
Interfund might be either like our 6603 or some of our open enrollment numbers.
So it's
like intergovernmental funds, so money that's going to get transferred.
It's the budget is 1.2 million and we've spent $2,500. Can you just give that to me, Andy? Or do you know, Andy?
I think it's probably just the Fund 27 transfer.
Yeah,
So it
most
just
likely.
happens at the end of the year.
So,
okay.
And some of these numbers won't come until just before the end
Like
of the
Fund 10 to
fiscal
Fund
year.
27,
Every year we
special ed
transfer money
Special
from
ed
Fund 10 to Fund 27.
Okay.
That's probably the budgeted number for that.
Okay.
Which one is Fund 80?
It's not on there.
It's not on there.
Any other questions about budget comparison?
Mm-mm.
Okay, next are committee reports. First is personnel. Joni, I don't know if you want to say your piece when we talk about the staff hires in terms of giving context from.
So I don't know that either of the positions we discussed during the personnel committee are part of the employee services discussion this evening.
Okay.
So
Why don't you go ahead then?
Okay. So the personnel committee met a week ago tonight on Monday, the 6th. We had 4 topics on our agenda, only got through the first 2. So those are the only 2 I'm going to discuss this evening. The first was around our growing population of English learners within the district and what staffing options we should consider in order to support a growing need within our district. I'm gonna look at Angie, but I won't ask her to come up at this point. From a regulatory perspective, we are not required to engage or to have a English language learning specialist on staff. However, we have a growing need at this point and anticipate continued future growth in that space. And so as a committee, after quite a bit of discussion, we recommended that we try to hire a position that is at a minimum of 40%, not to exceed $30,000. The reason that we felt like this was a good option and we wanted to explore what we found for a candidate pool by posting a position is that we did learn that there are services we could contract through CESA 3. We would get significantly less support for about the same dollar amount. We would get less than 1 day a week, or less than 1/20th of, or 1/5 of a position, a 20% position for about that dollar amount. So we wanted to see if we could find the right candidate who would be looking for something part-time. So we had the recommendation coming out of committee for that is a no less than 40% position, not to exceed 30,000. Any questions around that one? The second position we discussed was our speech and language services position. We currently have 2 individuals who are filling the speech and language role for us. We have one who is at a full-time and one who is at a 0.6, I believe. So we have a 1.6 now. Our full-time position is asking to go down to a 0.8 next year. And the 0.6 position that we have that we share with another district is the other district that we share with is actually saying next year we need them back for 0.6%.
Yeah, they're gonna take
So
2/10 of that.
2/10. So we're going to go from a 1.6 total to a 1.2 total based on the staffing we currently have. In addition to that, that staff is significantly, they're exceeding their capacity right now. And we went through quite a few numbers and scenarios. And so coming out of that, the committee was recommending that we search for a full-time speech and language position to be added to the staff. So to take us from a 1.6, we went down to a 1.2, and now we would be looking at taking that up to the equivalency of a 2.2 would be our total staffing, which based on the needs that we know of for next year, brings us in line with a reasonable service coverage. And that's not anticipating any new needs that we have. So not necessarily excessive staffing, but just getting us back to a reasonable level. And that came out of committee with a 3-0 recommendation.
That can be partially, the cost of that position can be partially offset by special ed reimbursement, Medicaid reimbursement, depending on the students. And we're also losing 0.4 FTE from this year to next year. Yep. So we'll be able to transfer that. So at this position,
at a minimum, to just be level, we would need a 0.4. And we felt like if we're going for a 0.4, let's try to hire a full-time position, and really maximize the value and ease the overcapacity that our speech team was feeling.
Okay, thanks, Jody. All right. See where my next operations.
Yep, so we met last Wednesday for ops and policy. Ops, we had 4 topics. A couple of them we've already reviewed: summer kids club, food service, daycare we touched on a little bit, and citizen communication. And then transportation RFP is in the action items section. So unless there's any more questions on any of those topics, I'll move on to policy. 2 overarching topics. One was the truancy policy. Just discussed as a group, there's a few tweaks we want to make, but that's kind of part of the future kind of sprints to look at policies during the summer. So we'll address that during the summer at some point. in our next round of policies we had to get through, there was 3 of them. 811.1, parent and family engagement involvement. There was only 1 sample in the policy resource guide from WASB, so that'll be adopted. But the 2 others, there was multiple samples, so Mr. Wainwright's taking that back to the staff to discuss. One is around admin self-evaluation. We all did agree that that should be left to the district admin. Like the board doesn't need to get involved in the details of how they evaluate their staff, just that it's being done and there's a process to do it. And then use of seclusion and restraint. Mitch was going to talk with Angie about that one just because we're not really the experts on that.
We've begun that process. Right?
That was it for policy.
Thank you. Any questions for your Skelding on those? Okay, we'll go into action items.
Can I ask a question before we leave the committee reports? So the personnel committee had those 2 positions that we wanted to bring forward for support. I don't see those on the agenda, so can we not approve those this evening for posting, or can you post them?
Not to get them included in the agenda.
Okay.
So technically, no, you can't, because they're not part of the agenda. You can't approve that. We can post and bring that back in June at that board meeting.
Okay.
We would want to do that.
The policy or the personnel committee is recommending at 3:00. So I guess we are not going to vote on that, but I would ask as the policy chair committee that you contact me immediately if you would not be in support of those, and I will have some follow-up discussions.
Thanks, Jenny. Okay. Transportation contract.
We sent out 4 packets to transportation providers for student, Lamers, Warkle, and Stratton Bus. We received 2 bids, one from Lamers and one from First Student. We opened the bids. Basically, the process, here's the date to get your bids back in. Then we select the top 2. Well, that was a pretty easy decision to make. Who were the top 2? Because we only had 2 bids in. Opened the bids, reviewed the numbers. If there were any subsequent questions to be asked, transportation providers could call the district, or the district could call the transportation providers to get some follow-up answers. The bids were very close. Some of the things that, in essence, bring my recommendation to First Student. This is probably the craziest time of the year when it comes to extracurricular, co-curricular type trips. We'll have a group like, the forensic students are going to Madison to compete, and we'll have the baseball team going somewhere and the softball team going somewhere. Sometimes we provide transportation for track. First Student has a set fee for extracurricular. Here's the cost. Here's the cost for the trip, the mileage. That's it. Lamers' proposal had an on-peak and an off-peak. So if we sent somebody to Dodgeville for county government days and they left at 9 o'clock and they were back at 2 o'clock, that comes in at one rate. But the minute you have a trip going out when the normal bus routes go, Lamers has a completely different charging rate. And they also include a minimum trip charge, which is considerably higher during what they consider peak time. Now it's crazy for us. Now we are running, we have 7 bus routes, and it's very few days that we don't have 3 additional buses going out. So our cost at this time of year for those extra trips would really be much higher if we were to go along that contract proposal.
So during a busy season, I just want to clarify, during a busy time of the year, like right now,
Yeah.
the different costs, like depending on the day and the time of the week and all that kind of stuff is more like it's really confusing and it's hard to track.
It would be, yes, and more expensive if we were to go the route with Lamers.
More expensive for us.
More expensive for the school district to have these trips that we know we're taking multiple times in a given week. The transportation, like I said, we have 7 routes. First student's bid came back at what amounts to $340 a bus per day for the routes, and Lamers proposed at $344. So very close, but again, still just a little bit cheaper to go with first student. We have been with first student now. This is my 13th year in the district. I've been through this one other time. So we were coming off a 5-year contract. We entered another 5-year contract, and we would be looking at entering another 5-year contract. I'm very satisfied with first students, the buses, the service. We have, I know it's hard to believe, we have procedures in place where if you need to request a bus, you're doing that at least a week at a time. That's to help first student be prepared. And yet, surprise, sometimes it's like, oh, I forgot to push this through and I need a bus today. It's a simple phone call, and first student has been very accommodating to get us a driver and a bus and make things happen. Todd Schmitz is our local first student representative. Todd is here, so if you had any questions of him, he would certainly be happy to ask. Liddell Cass, because I was thinking, see his email, and I was thinking it's Cass Liddell. It's Liddell Cass is the regional manager, so he's the one that put the bid proposal together. He's who I work with. I didn't work with Todd at all on any of these numbers. This is coming from basically the corporate level of first student, based on potential. There will be a cost increase, but less of an increase by staying with first student. The level of service is top notch. I recommend that we maintain our working relationship with first student and sign on to a contract with them for our transportation.
I'll make a motion to contract with first student for the next 5 years.
Second.
Okay. Question. I know we can't control fuel costs in the future, but are these fees locked in for 5 years, or are they on an increasing schedule?
Their rates are locked in. Their rates do increase 4.5% per year. We take care of the fuel. School district has pulled the fuel out of any transportation. So if fuel costs come down, that's our savings. If they go up, that's our expense.
Right. Do we have any way to hedge on fuel costs at all? I don't know if we buy enough to do that, but like, for propane, let's say, at the farm, I lock in a rate just to start the year. Some months it's probably higher than the going rate, and some months it's less, but just to anticipate.
We don't have any play. We either use diesel or regular.
Yeah, I know we don't use propane, but I was just wondering if, because the large amount that we buy, if there's any way to like lock in pricing or anything, or it's not possible.
There is not for us.
Yeah.
We buy through a local vendor.
Oat oil is where our buses will pick up, and then like our vans and the Equinox can either be Port Oil or Todd owns Wayne's. Thank you, Wayne's. So we have cards, fuel cards, and that people can use. And again, procedures to make sure that the vehicle's filled up when they bring it back. But Angie can speak to the fact that doesn't happen very often. But
Not part of the transportation proposal, but it does feel like it might be worth a conversation with the folks at Port Oil to ask if we could contract our fuel. Like over the last 5 years, we've used this much every year. So 75% of that.
Do farmers do that at all? Angie, do Yeah, how does it work? And sorry I'm a pseudo farmer, so apologize for the ignorance.
Storage, you buy it hopefully at the right price. This would be.
And that's diesel too, right? But it'd be farm grade diesel. Yeah. Yeah.
We have no place to store it. And at this point in time, Code Oil Triple P doesn't have any place when we get it right out of the pump.
I see.
So it's like,
Yeah, and I don't know that you have to have storage on it. That's just another discount. Storage of it, but if you're gonna, there may be some potential for contracting on usage. It might even be a governmental.
Do
Be
we
curious how much we
pay?
could save.
Do we pay normal road tax on the diesel we buy as a school? I feel like that might be an opportunity that we should have some conversations around.
Todd, do you know when the buses go up there?
Lipka or Leda, she handles the ones.
Because that's separate from this contract. It's something we could easily follow up on and try to investigate.
Yeah, for sure. Just this
Separate
is
outside the contract for sure.
yeah. This is kind of the time of the year that we talk about it. I mean, it's always, like a really big expense item for the fuel costs. Whenever we look at these weekly bills, and I'm not going to bother going through this, but if you could have a conversation, Mitch, that'd be great, and just explore some options in terms of like, if there's any way to lock in pricing, or if we did do storage here, or the tax situation. And to make sure we're not paying taxes on that.
Right.
Futures
That is not
contracts.
necessary.
Yeah.
You will still contract the usage.
Yeah.
And I think that since we're a government, since we're a school, there might be something that too that we.
It also makes sense to me, with all the options for gas, even just in town, to say, hey, if we get all of our gas from you, what's that worth to you? That seems like it's worth the conversation.
Yeah, maybe that's what potential RFP. Like we want to, if we use, I don't know, 2,000 gallons of diesel a year, send it out to our 3 local gas stations that have diesel and say, what?
Yeah, it's worth looking into.
Saves
We can
us.
save some money.
Do we have a motion on the table?
We do. We're in discussion. So back to my question about you mentioned the 4.5% increase in fees into the schedule. Is Lamer's similar to that?
Yes. Yes, I think their percentage increase is just a little bit higher. And theirs varied. First Students is 4.5% every year for 5 years. Lamer's was, I think, 4.5, then it went to 5, then it was 5.5, then it came back to 5. So, theirs varied during the course of the contract as well.
Okay.
Do they have to justify why for the increase? It's just automatic.
This is, part of it will be inflation, part of it will be wear and tear on vehicles, maintenance on vehicles, driver pay, kind of gets factored into some of those things as well.
Any other comments or questions?
I guess I would just ask Todd, you think the drivers are treated appropriately, compensated appropriately?
I don't think, I don't think bring it to my attention,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Heisner,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Gelding,
Yes.
Bergstrom,
Yes.
Bush.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's not an easy job and we really appreciate you and all the drivers keeping our kids safe and
very good to work with. So.
Okay, next we'll go to approval of open enrollment students in and out.
Back in January, you, as a board, have to establish limits, numbers, and all those kinds of things. What you have in your board packet are the applicants in with recommendations, and then applicants out. So we're looking at 30 students coming into the district. These would be new open enrollment applications. And we have 3 going out. And if you look, the 3 going out have never been in attendance here. 2 are early childhood students and 1 attends a private school in a different community. So I would recommend that you approve both the open enrollment in and out numbers with the denials based on your board approved guidelines. We have no space in special education and those kinds of things are why the denials.
Which I thought we had put in 1 seat for 3rd grade, just in case we did get one. And I just see that we're denying this based on no seats open.
We kicked that back.
You did?
You proposed it and then we walked it back because they were at 66 kids.
Yeah.
So you adjusted the other grades and we left 3rd grade alone.
Okay.
I thought we did too, so I went back and looked at the motion and
Okay.
the original numbers.
Right.
And then recalled the
Got it.
conversation.
Right. Thanks, Andy.
Also, just to be clear, we can't see any student names or family names or any of that inside. So like,
Correct.
we're literally looking at numbers and capacity.
Right. And although in this case with the 3rd grade, we can see that there's a sibling currently applying. So that was, my point of contention over the last 2 years about if we have somebody else in the district, even if we're full in that grade, we should let them apply. So, but in theory, I think if the sibling gets in,
Next year.
we would take them. So
Based on your policy.
Right.
Yeah.
The
the 3rd grade kid.
bottom line of the table and then the
Right there.
3rd column from the right.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any other discussion or questions on this?
I notice a lot of 4Ks, which is fantastic. Do we have an idea around what the retention is? If we get a student in EC or 4K open enrollment, how likely are we to keep them through long-term enrollment? It's pretty good, right?
Very likely.
It's
Like
like 100% because even if that kid isn't in, then we get a big bump in kindergarten.
Can I, if you don't mind, I'll just add, like, I love to see, I think there are 12, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. We sent out 48 4K applications for kids that lived in district.
Oh.
And we know 9 of them are not coming next year, but I think I had talked in January that we might just want to start thinking about, should we add some sort of limit to 4K as well? Because if all 48 would have come and you have 12 open enrollments, that's 20 kids in a
Load of
section
4K.
of 4K kids. So, I mean, right now,
That's good.
we have
That's good.
28 returned 4K applicants. We have about 10 that we haven't heard back from. And if all 12 of these come, you're still looking at a class of 50 4K students. So
We've got the summer to go along.
right.
Let
And,
us get-
it's right. It's great. I mean, we'd love a class of 54 4K students, but if all 48 on our census that we knew of would have showed up, plus these 12, that would be a lot of 4K bodies in 3 sections.
And we'll build an early child learning center with community daycare and the early childhood, maybe and the pre-K.
Need a new committee and you can chair it.
Let's get somebody hired before we scare them out of their
Yeah.
job.
I should stop talking.
Talking the new hire before we approve them out of their job. I think the numbers are fantastic.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I think it just speaks to what's going on in this district. And the 3 is one of the lowest number outs that I can remember. And some of that's circumstantial, but some of it is just the fact that
To a pre-K.
yeah, the kids, you don't want to come here.
Fully agree. Okay, great.
Harris,
Yes.
Eisner,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Gelding,
Yes.
Bergstrom,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. Okay, next is approval of the budget amendments.
You have 2 sets of information. The first one has the word grants in the title. And that budget amendment is more so clerical than anything else. So the monies came in and are being expended through a grant. So we put them in, as you see, it's, you know, some of them 10E, 141, 212, 122, 115. The DPI is asking that we get more specific about where those expenses are going. So the biggest thing I would want you to understand is the dollar amount has not changed. This is money that we took in. We had it expended in certain accounts. We needed to get better clarification as to what those accounts were. So the lower number of accounts are being more specific. It's going into benefits, not just to this person, but okay, this is paying their benefits, this is paying their salary, this is paying supplies, and so on and so forth. So that first one, and page 2 kind of gives you a little bit of that, where it's like employment accounts and it's Title I benefits, education for homeless children and youth. It kind of explains where those expenses are going, which is specifically where that money ended up going. So we haven't shifted any different monies, any new monies, anything around. It's a dollar for dollar. It just went to clarify which account it was being spent out of. The second set of amendments is kind of more of a traditional budget amendment that you see, where we taken money in revenues. That's what the R stands for. 10R 411 is a revenue in, and then down below is 10E for our expenses. So basically that money was brought into these accounts. Here's where that money is going out. And again, I would point out that the dollar amounts are identical. It's $55,154 that came in revenue and $55,154 going out in expenses. It's just being more specific as to what expenses, what accounts that money is being expended out of.
A motion to approve these amendments as presented.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any other questions about it or?
Garrett,
Yes.
Eisner,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Felday,
Yes.
Bergstrom,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. Okay, next, we're going to approve staffing levels for the Summer Kids Club.
So basically what we're asking, what came out of committee was to approve the number of positions that we would like to offer potential candidates. Coming out of committee, we were looking at a director at 40 hours a week, and then 3 assistants that would fill in, potentially splitting 40 hours between 2. We know we have a student that will require some additional supports that we're going to try to hire the appropriate number. We'll be setting up interviews as Angie had alluded to. She and Tom will be looking at some of those students, or some of those applications that have come in. Moving forward with the director at $18 an hour and the assistants at $16 an hour. So we're really looking for a director plus 3 assistants to help staff the Summer Kids Club program. Quick run through of numbers at policy with the number of students that have signed up, kind of rough guesstimates, that would be cost neutral to the district at those staffing levels.
I'll take a motion to approve these staffing recommendations as presented.
A second.
Alvin Bush. Any questions or comments?
Just curious on the cost neutral, did that include like summer school FTE? Or is that just like student or kid pay and employee costs or
that part right there?
Yeah,
It was based on students attending, what the families would have to pay for those students, and then what we would pay to support it. So there was no factoring in the benefit of these students being enrolled in summer school for that FTE.
Fantastic. Like worst case was cost neutral. There's still the potential for money to invest in other areas. I was going to say profit, but that's probably not the right word.
What about
Your
the,
corporate mind.
I know.
speaking of cost neutrality, what about the, like, did we factor in like admin time and front office support time and like logistical time that it takes to actually lift something like this? Or you just take it out of your evenings and mornings? How does
Yes.
that work? Take it out of your evenings and mornings?
Yes.
Okay. So something for a future consideration. When we consider something neutral, it's never neutral unless we actually include the real lived cost of capacity for students.
Did that cost neutral include the registration fee for each child? No.
No, we just kind of looked at X number of children attending at this dollar amount. So yes, no, there was nothing for the registration fee. There was nothing, factored in as
So
far as
there
summer
is
school.
additional funding in addition to the cost neutral to the district that we're not taking in account.
And knowing that, we'll learn lots to inform
Yeah.
next year when we do
Then
it.
we'll have actual like data.
Yep.
The flip side of that is there was a little bit of guesswork in terms of like which students are going to pay for 3 days a week versus 5 days a week and how much revenue you're getting per student. So there's,
Called all the families that registered last week.
Yeah.
Asked for hours that they would be attending, because the registration only showed the days they were attending and not what hours they would be attending, for some confirmation.
Yeah.
So that, and I could look at like, well, there's gonna be 12 kids here from 8 to 11 and only one from 1 to 5 or something like that. So I haven't looked at like what they've committed to, but there's been at least some follow-up with from Shelby on trying to get parents to let us know when they would be attending and more specifically. But I know I overheard her say, well, one parent said, well, wasn't really sure if I'm using it. I just registered so that it's there if I need it, so like, it's hard because we're moving forward and not all of the parents are 100% committed yet.
I will say it's really late in the year to be doing this. So a lot of parents probably they'd like to attend, but because nothing came out until much later, that they had already made plans because they had to.
And can you just clarifying for me, the student that will need the extra support, is the budget neutral including his costs, or special ed is taking on those costs? Because special ed took on the cost for the course of the school year.
It was coming out of the program.
And just so everyone knows too, that I would like to see us look at this throughout. I've requested that we have like the year that we just did, like the first year financials, what we took in from the grant that was written, what we took in from registration costs, what we took in from attendance, how many kids registered versus how many kids attended. What time did they get dropped off? What time did they get picked up? So that we have some data around what this looks like, that as we move forward and as we're looking at the fall, that we have some idea of what happened in the first year. So I've also requested that data.
Be great.
Danielle sent us some stuff today. It must not have gone to the whole board, now that I think about it. It's all
That
forwarded
was
out.
just on the after school program.
Okay.
The data, like,
Or
is that
the-
also cost neutral in terms of where the dust settled? We took
I
the
didn't have a
grant.
chance to look at it. We just got it today. I'll forward it.
Thank you.
But you were talking about the summer, Christy?
Nope, I want the school year. The data I requested was for the school year after school program.
Okay.
But I think that when we're trying something like this and we want to make sure that it is budget neutral, that we are looking at that and that we as a board are following up on that to make sure that it is.
Did you ask Mo?
What?
Yeah, who did you ask?
Who did you ask for that data?
I emailed you and we talked about it at the operations meeting.
Yeah, Nathaniel sent it today.
Okay.
In terms of the
Yeah.
financials.
The financials.
I think the other information would be kind of an end of year exit with Mo and
Right.
or who signed up and who came and when did they come, but the financials I had asked for at the end of last meeting to review in a finance meeting, and then it came up in the ops meeting, so we'll share that with the whole board tonight or in 45 seconds. Since my computer's right here.
And I just want to sort of to tie those two comments together, Rachel and Christie's, about, I have the same feeling that I'd like to look at this next year. We've done a year and a half, 2 years after school, we did a year in the summer, maybe looking at registrations for a second year. Beyond is it budget neutral is sort of the question, if the juice is worth the squeeze, which alludes to your point, in terms of facilities and our administration, doing extra programs, are we getting enough attendance in them to make it worth it? So it's beyond the budget neutral question. It's a heavy lift. I think as a admin team, a board, and parents and all of this, did something really interesting to take a step towards seeing, is this an issue we can help to resolve? And I guess for me personally, I want to make sure that it's worth all of the energy and that we've got enough people. And how we evaluate that, I don't know, but I'm sure we've got a great admin team and a good board, so we'll figure it out.
Motion a second?
Yep.
Yeah.
Director and three assistants.
Okay.
Belding,
Yes.
Bergstrom,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Eisner,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. Okay. Next, we'll go to employee services. So we have closed session available to discuss any or all of these hires. So I could take a motion to table employee services until after closed session. Otherwise, we can proceed with the hires as recommended in open session.
So this is the last thing on the agenda, correct?
Yes.
Mitch, is there the question I sent to you via email today? Is there anything in your response to that question that would have to be in closed session?
No. One of the positions we have an employee we hired, that we split the cost between Mineral Point and Pecatonica. That position is going away at the end of the year, so we would not be replacing that position for the next school year. And the other question dealt with replacing one of our instructional assistants. We have a part-time employee that is willing to fill the full-time position. So we would be reducing the amount of instructional assistants in your second, because you talked about Judy Pelton retiring at the end of the year. We have somebody that is basically working, would you say 60% or 80%?
2 hours.
So that individual would move into a full-time position, and we would not be looking to replace that position. So there would be.
Was Judy full-time?
Yes.
And she's at the middle school?
Yep.
And I don't actually know what her job was there. So instructional assistant, and what kind of services does she provide?
So, or mostly support students while they're in the classrooms, individually or in small groups. And study hall does a lot of repeating.
Yeah. I guess where I got nervous around this is our discussion in personnel committee about, and a lot of the discussions I guess we've had with you, Angie, about your staff being stretched pretty thin, and then middle school level with reading and all this stuff. And I guess both of those positions with Maddie and Judy's position, just do we have the coverage that we need so that we're not back here in January saying, well, shoot, we really need somebody there. And then the third one is kind of this jumping the gun a little bit, but knowing this pre-K class is going to be pretty big, potentially transferring somebody from, would be from pre-K to, well, I guess that stays in
Early
pre-K,
childhood,
but
yes,
early
and
childhood.
is that pre-K class.
Yeah, and now it's a big class, so like, do we need to hire somebody there?
What I can look you in the eye and tell you with 100% certainty that this is my recommendation based on what I know today.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't predict for families moving in
Sure.
that have students that need some extra supports in some area, way, shape, or form. I don't know that number.
Yeah.
But based on what we have now, these are our staffing recommendations. So if nothing changes,
You feel comfortable?
we feel good because Angie is more than comfortable. She and I have these conversations all the time about, my population is growing. We need this, or somebody's coming in that requires these kinds of services. And I'll be like, all right, well, I have no choice but to take that to the board, and get approval moving forward. But based on what we know today, we're comfortable with this recommendation.
All right, great. Thank
And I
you.
think, like, to answer just a little bit on your question for why we're electing to not fully replace Mrs. Pelton's position. I'm also looking at who's exiting. We have several students that are graduating and exiting this year, that have required some direct support. So when they're exiting, it allows us to shift the balance elsewhere. So yeah, at this time, Mitch has asked me repeatedly, but at this time, I think because of those students exiting, it does allow us to readjust where our supports are needed. And it's not a huge reduction. It's, 40% reduction in staff or whatever it is, but at least I can, when I do have to come back again for staff, I can say, but number, I can fill that position.
Cool. I've just kind of felt personally bad a few times this year where last year when we didn't hire a position and then got halfway through the year and things really weren't going well. And then I'm like, well, we lost 4 months there and that's too bad. It's like, for me, just to think ahead and make sure that we're fully staffed where we need to be. So the question is just around that. But if you feel comfortable, then great. That's
The
fine.
hardest part would be to say, let's hire somebody full-time. I mean, we can always find things for them to
Right.
help and support, but is that the best
Right.
use of district funds as well? And
Right.
at this point in time, I would say I can't come forward with that
Okay.
kind of recommendation.
Sounds good.
Can I ask overarching questions like did we make any exceptions on licensure where we're out of alignment with the license that's required or anything like that throughout this? You don't have to answer in detail, but I'm wondering if that's if we would need to go to closed session to understand what the implications are or not. I don't know that. These are just the questions we always ask.
There are 2 positions that would be under an emergency license for a year moving forward for next year. After next year, that should be off the table. And these people would be fully certified, fully licensed.
So that means the things are in progress that needed to have been in progress and in motion in order for a certification.
Yes.
One of mine too, it will be 2 years.
2 years.
The other one should finish next year. The other one is in a program, and I believe it's 2 years.
Okay, sorry, I
But
misunderstood that.
you have 3 years on an emergency license to finish the coursework, so well within the time of getting finished.
These are for which positions, Angie?
The 2 special ed positions.
Okay.
Which is not out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
Probably move forward in open session too.
Well, I'll take a motion to approve the hiring of Maddie Chapman as the elementary special education teacher.
So moved.
Who's the second?
Find a different.
And then briefly, Mitch, does that mean the program, based off of what you were saying earlier, the program with Pecatonica is going to end then? Okay.
Yes, that was a 1-year agreement. Pecatonica is going to start their own
Got it.
early
Cool.
childhood
Okay.
program for
Great.
next year, so they won't.
That's probably good.
They have purchased, I gotta speak correctly here, they purchased seats from us in the past. That will not be happening as we move forward.
Is that a 50-50 agreement?
Yes. Yeah, 6630 is the intergovernment.
I mean,
Yes, yes,
share of the position.
yes.
50/50.
Yeah, they basically were hiring the early childhood person and we hired the other half of that person to give us supports.
What we're gonna do, fix it.
Any other questions or comments about this position?
Harris,
Yes.
Eisner,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Gelding,
Yes.
Bergstrom.
Yes.
Bush.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. I'll take a motion to approve Amanda Ingwell for the EC 4K position.
And seconded.
Skelding Heisner. So just for transparency's sake, so you mentioned in your summary, this is Mr. Ingwell's wife, correct? Okay, and what's the oversight arrangement?
Because it's more of a special education position, Angie Klein will be the immediate supervisor. We'll do all the evaluations, all of those kinds of things. So Mr. Ingwell will have no input on that position at all.
And then, Ms. Ingwell's currently, is she a teaching assistant, or
Yeah.
instructional assistant
Yeah.
for pre-K? And then, how do we see that moving, that empty position, I guess, moving forward?
We would be recommending that position would stay. So in the current position, it is a regular education 4K assistant position. We talked about possibly posting it as a special ed instructional position, same number of hours. There's always special ed students in 4K and at least would allow us to get a little bit of reimbursement, which we've never been able to do with a regular ed assistant. And it's currently 29 hours, no benefits. So we would be posting for the exact same thing. I talked to Tom and we would probably not be posting until the middle of summer. I've just found over the years, if you post for an assistant right now, you get teachers who haven't found a job and then they get hired at a job and they leave. So we would be posting a little bit closer, like mid-July, so that we could interview and bring you a candidate in August to have hired in September. So it wouldn't be an immediate posting, but we would be filling the position.
Great.
And the only change we would move it into a special ed name just so we can get reimbursement for it.
All right. Sweet.
And with needs increasing too, it feels like win-win.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, she's in one room in the morning and the other room in the afternoon for 4K and both of those, like, she is providing a lot of direct support for students who need extra help to begin with, so it's kind of a no-brainer. And she's a substitute.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
Yeah, right.
We're not making your job easier.
The EC 4K position, is that right?
As well as posting for the position, is it one of the same or?
You have given permission to post for open positions.
Right.
Okay,
So-
so just the higher,
Yes.
okay. Gelding,
Yes.
Bergstrom,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Eisner.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. Take a motion to approve Mr. Brunson as the new 6th grade teacher.
Like a motion.
I'll second.
Johnston Bush. Any discussion or questions? Okay. Angie?
Johnson,
Yes.
Gelding,
Yes.
Bergstrom,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Eisner.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. Next, I'll take a motion to approve Anthony Ziliox. Did I say that right? Okay. Okay, good. That is
Middle school and
middle
high
school,
school
high school English.
Yep.
Okay, to
Replacing
replace Mr. Miles. So I just went out of order, so I apologize for that. Okay. I'll take a motion to approve. Okay, Spalding Johnston. Any other questions or comments?
Gelding,
Yes.
Bergstrom,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Heiser,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. Okay,
Middle school reading intervention.
yes, I skipped the middle school reading interventionist, which is Tasha Miller.
Motion.
I'll second.
Approve. Bush, Harris. Any comments or questions?
Bush,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Heiser,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Gelding,
Yes.
Bergstrom.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes. Okay. Good, thank you. Mitch, was asking you about like front entrance safety and how that was going this year. How do you want to address that?
I can answer this the same way we've answered it in the past. We have at least one administrator, and more recently, two administrators down by door number 1, which is the main door into the building, into the commons. We have at least one administrator and oftentimes the police liaison officer at door number 2, which is the door that comes in my office. Those are the 2 doors that are unlocked for student entrance. If there's any door propped open, I am unaware of the door being propped open. Once the day gets started, all doors are locked. And students, visitors, guests, deliveries have to come in door number 1. And like, let's make a deal. They have to come in door number 1. There is we have moved the intercom system back outside. So now there is a double set of locked doors. Anybody coming in must enter the office. They can't come in one set of unlocked doors and enter the school once the school day has started. Every guest is now funneled through the office in order to gain access to the high school and school building. Similar scenario at the elementary school. They get buzzed in and the only entrance into the building is in through the office. There is no direct entry into the building. Before school, they have staff members up in the upper parking lot, where students get off the bus. So there's staff there. There's staff at the lower circle where parents are dropping off students. So we continue to maintain the same level of safety that we've had for a long time. And again, all doors in both buildings are locked. We do have one door on a timer for the building that's not connected. That at passing time allows students to pass between the 2 buildings. That there's nothing we can do to control that under the current setup of the 2 buildings.
How are staff assigned which door to be at on any given day?
Yeah. You may want to move to closed session.
Yeah,
So,
that's what I wanted to just talk it out. Whether we should go into closed session to talk about this or.
You certainly can.
I have some questions I would like to ask in closed session for security reasons, like for.
Okay, that was my intent to do that, and then
I'll make a motion to move to closed session.
I will
follow up.
second.
I needed ahead of time. Okay, so we got a motion and second to go into closed session to talk about school security issues. Okay.
Who did the second? I'm sorry.
Joni.
Heisner.
Harris.
Yes.
Heiser.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Gelding,
Yes.
Bergstrom.
Yes.
Bush.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
Thank you. Line.